Grace and peace. I'm Brian Musto, the Baptist Campus Minister at Drexel University, and this is Peace and Power Christian Fellowship, the peace of Jesus Christ to change our lives, and the power of the Holy Spirit to change the world. And we are continuing our series on Revelation, Revelation Understood. We're looking at the 6th chapter. We're looking at the first 6 of 7 seals, and this is the 3rd video in this lesson, and we're looking at the final seal of this video, which is, and I kind of titled it the earthquake, but it's even much more than an earthquake. It's basically the end of the world. But let's look at the passage and see what's going on here. When he opened the 6th seal, that is when Christ opened the 6th seal, I looked and beheld, and the I in here is John, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, the stars of the sky fell to the earth as a fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by the gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth, and the great ones, and the generals, and the rich and powerful, and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come. Who can stand? Now, in quoting REM in the popular song, it's the end of the world as we know it. And there are several things that happen here looking over this. Just hearing the language is very common language. We see that there is a great earthquake. The sun becomes black, the moon becomes blood, the stars fall from the sky, islands are moved, the sky vanishes, and then the human beings go in hiding from the wrath of God. This is cataclysmic language describing the event, the event of the ending of time and the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. Unlike REM, we don't feel fine. Everybody is just losing their minds over this, as they should. And this is a typical scriptural way for these events to be described. These texts mention at least 4 of the following elements also found in the Revelation text. Isaiah, Ezekiel, Job, Habakkuk all include the shaking of the earth, an earthquake, something like mountains falling, or some sort of movement in the earth. And then the darkening or shaking of either the moon, the stars, the sun, or heaven, or some combination of there. And then there's something that is blood is being talked about in some way as also. The earth below, the sky above is being changed, and there is blood all over the place. It is Old Testament, it is New Testament. This is how the Bible describes the end of ends, the way the world comes to a conclusion. I want us to feel this. I want us to understand this piece here. Great and terrible things happened, catastrophes happened regularly in the lives of the first century folks. I think sitting from a chair in my office in the 21st century America, looking at these things, we see this as, oh my, this is so different. This is so strange to us. The first 4 horsemen were describing things that were catastrophic, but things that probably everybody that hearing this letter had been through at least once. If not, they would go through it before they died. Earthquakes were something that happened often. Invasion was a constant threat. Riots and internal strife and rebellions and civil war and all that kind of stuff happened. Famine and disease and just economic collapse happened, their lives were a lot more chaotic than we like to imagine our lives to be. And as they're describing this cataclysmic end of the world, it doesn't just hold those first four horsemen, it doesn't hold the martyrs. It has this idea of even the very ground beneath your feet would be shaken, the stars in the skies would fall. This is the end of the world. And in their chaotic experience, the world could end in a moment. For many of us, we don't expect the world to end. We are very comfortable. We're in a place where if the status quo remains, the world's just going to do fine. First century, it was like they were expecting the world to end at any moment. Some of that had to do a little bit with some words of Christ that kind of talked about his return being imminent, could happen at any moment, and there was an expectation. But I think a lot of it is also cultural, where the world was so chaotic that it didn't feel like it was going to go on and on and on and on. It felt like at any moment's notice, the final thread could fray and break, and everything would come crashing down. And that's what we see in Revelation. We see this picture of the ending of the world, this great cataclysm. And this, unlike how the chaos quite often felt, Revelation describes all these events being completely in the hand, control, will of God. God determines what is going on. God is in control of even the cataclysmic and catastrophic events that is happening here. And for us, from a seat of comfort, we can often see Revelation as scary, frightening, uncertain, and things like that. But from a seat in the middle of the chaos, in the storm, seeing that God is in control of the catastrophe, seeing God is in control of the cataclysms, and seeing that at some point God's going to step in and everything's going to go dark, could in some way be comforting. The chaos is controlled, and God is going to come in and bring about not just chaos, but redemptive judgment on the earth that is so messed up and so chaotic. I want you to feel that. I want us to understand that Revelation is not the scary, frightening book that we think it is, because we're sitting in our seats of stability and comfort. Revelation is, to its original audience, was a book of hope, a book that God is coming and things are going to change, and everything that I'm afraid of is in God's hand and God's control. So, one of the questions this forces is if this sixth seal describes such a cataclysmic end of the world. I mean, the sun darkening like sackcloth, the moon turning to blood, and the stars falling from the sky rolling back like a scroll, earths and mountains moving. Why do we still have like 15 chapters left or more? What's going on here? This I will. Why is there so much? Why is this happening so early in the book? If the book is, if this is the end of the world as we know it, and are you looking forward to the end of the world? Should you be or shouldn't you be? That would be a fascinating conversation and discussion to have. So if you have any thoughts, ideas about those two questions, drop down in the comments section below. Would love to hear your answers. Just kind of in a summary of what's going on. In a very chaotic world where catastrophes and death are expected, Revelation presents a picture where these things are part of God's overarching redemptive plan. And even martyrdom, from the second lesson, the video of this lesson, becomes the ultimate sign of faithfulness and not a sign of God's weakness or the worshippers in piety. So that's what the the horsemen, the martyrs, and this great cataclysmic earthquake and things going on. These six seals are creating just sort of that God's in control of the chaos. And even when we die in the midst of being faithful, that is a sign of faithfulness and not a sign of weakness. So as always, there are two ways to join. Sunday nights at 5 p.m. in the JEMIC, these weekly wrap-ups on YouTube and WordPress. I'm all over social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, WordPress, YouTube. Like, subscribe, and follow. Enjoyed having this conversation with you. Hopefully it continues real soon.